You're listening to the NeuroSpice Life podcast.
And I'm Hanna, sexologist, sensologist, lovable weirdo, oversharer, and not sorry about it.
And I'm Freya, alexithymic counsellor, mum, chaos wrangler, and a happy little steamroller.
Whether you're neurotypical or neurodiverse, our podcast is for everybody and every brain that has ever been labelled.
Welcome back to The Spicy Life. This week we are talking about all things fabulous and sensitive.
Yes, speaking of, I'm Freya.
I'm Hanna.
And I'm both fabulous and sensitive.
I am weird and wonderful.
All the things. So yeah, this week we're talking about sensitive and we're into part 2 where we're going to be reframing and looking at these things a little bit more compassionately.
And to lean into it. And what I often think about when I think, am I being too sensitive? And it comes out when I will give somebody a compliment. Mm. For some reason, the eyes and the reds and the, teary and all the rest of it happen. And I've worked it out that it happens every single time. As soon as I hit a compliment, I just, it starts to come out.
Yeah.
And so my emotional dysregulation is something that I'm still learning to live with and still learning how to name and tame and everything. And I often find that with emotions, it's the one that's shouting the loudest, squeaky wheel gets the oil, everything like that. So if one of the various feelings is shouting the loudest, it might not be the one that actually needs attention, but it's the one that's front and center of my brain.
And that's the one that gets the attention.
Yeah.
And as you say that too, this is like whenever I talk to my daughter about tears, right, and how they happen and what's going on too, right, is the way I describe tears sometimes is when feelings get too big in our body and they build up too much. So whether that's angry, sad, joy, love, when those things get too big and they need somewhere to go, they come out our eyes in the form of tears. And it's like a pressure relief. And sometimes it can be the thing of, and there's this beautiful stuff about autistic joy and stuff like that. And I'm one to cry when everything in my environment is so beautiful. You heard it here. Yes, I do cry every now and then. But
I've seen it happen, folks.
But it's usually when I'm just filled with so much love and there's so much joy and there's so much beauty around me. So it might be like I'm walking through a gorgeous park out in nature and I'm listening to the most lovely song and I can feel the grass under my feet. And my daughter says something beautiful or amazing, or I'm with somebody and and it's just like, oh, it's too much. So it's almost like, again, for me, linked to the sensory side of things, which we're wrestling with that at 3:00 in the morning. But it's almost like it's too much and it comes out. I'm a big angry crier as well. Mm-hmm. And so often, in a work situation too, I would end up getting so frustrated, so angry, and it would come out in the form of tears. And people are like, oh, sorry to upset you. It's like, I'm not upset. I'm angry.
I'm fuming.
I'm furious. This is what rage looks like.
I so often think of this is Charlize Theron. She was interviewed right after the Mad Max. I think it was Mad Max. And the interviewer said, how did you channel that rage? How did you channel that fury? And she was furiosa. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And there's just this pause. I think every woman has that, and it wasn't that difficult. That was the crux of it.
All along.
It's been there all along, and I think that particularly for women, the rage that I feel, and then I feel that we feel as a whole.
And again, that's like a really interesting thing, I think, in and of itself too, is we're taught that emotions look a certain way, and they don't.
And women have certain emotions, and men have different emotions. And, it's perfectly acceptable for a man to punch a hole in the wall, but it's not, acceptable for a woman to cry or be angry.
Yeah, men can't cry, women can't be angry, all of those kind of standard things. But even just how emotions present and what it is that's going on for us can look so different. And so not to assume that you're seeing an outward expression of something that the feeling behind it, because it can actually be quite different for each of it. But I find that's really helpful with tears. It's like it's just going, yep, they're coming because it needs to come out somewhere, and they come out in the form of tears.
Yeah. The studies that they've done now actually show that when you bottle it up, you actually can end up with all sorts of autoimmune issues. It can actually
nervous system issues.
It can give you all sorts of problems later on. And we don't realize that, because when I was growing up, there was no healthy way for a girl or a woman to be rageful. And
you just keep it all inside.
Keep it all locked inside in the pretty furry chest. And therapy is fantastic. There are many different ways as an outlet, and I find 5 Rhythms is a form of dancing that helps to release a lot of the somatic feelings inside the body. And so you'll go through, the 5 stages of dance, and so it starts off with, I think it's flowing, flowing, staccato, chaotic, lyrical, and still.
Yeah.
And it's all about bringing the energy up and then bringing the energy down and having this sort of beautiful, sort of almost trance-like meditative state. And I find that, find your outlet, find whatever's going to sort of get it out of you, because the more you bottle it up, the more likely it's going to come out in an unexpected way.
Yeah.
I was going through a particularly sort of challenging period, and I didn't know what to do, and I felt stuck. And I was having all sorts of back issues at the same time, whether they were related, who knows. And
I'm really stressed and I'm really tense and my back hurts. That makes sense. Because your muscles are all contracted and
100%.
You're constantly being flooded with
constantly
chemicals,
holding your body in a series of...
in a defensive posture. Yeah. Please don't hurt me.
And this osteopath that I went to, and she was very woo-woo, and, I didn't kind of know what to make of it during session. But as we were talking about my emotions, she was clearly trying to understand this is not just a physical situation. There is something happening in your life.
Yeah.
And so the more I talked, the more I was sort of opening up. And then eventually she said to me, it sounds like you're really angry. And I was like, I thought about it. And I'm like, yeah, actually, I think I am. And she said, well, what do you do? How do you acknowledge your anger? And I was like, well, I kind of try to ignore it. And then I bottle it up and I shove it away.
I lock it in a cupboard like Harry Potter.
And she said, well, okay, so just imagine, she's like, I'm visualizing your 4 sort of main emotions in this room. I'm visualizing your happiness, your joy, your sadness, and your anger. And she said, now I'm imagining them as children. And what happens, you've got 4 children here. What happens if you ignore 2 of them?
Yeah.
Or ignore 3 of them and only focus on one? And I'm like, the 3 kids is probably going to be really loud and really resentful. She's like, yeah. She's like, what happens when you do the opposite and you ignore 1 and you only pay attention to 3? You ignore the other one, you shut it in a cupboard, Harry Potter-esque style. What happens then? And I said, well, it would probably fester in the dark and it would probably get really upset and it would probably end up feeling really resentful, and then it would come out big and terrifying, and I still wouldn't want to pay attention to it because it's gotten out of control at that point.
Yeah.
And she's like, right. So you need to make friends with all of your emotions.
You need to know the names of your children.
Yeah.
You need to know what they like and don't
pay
like,
attention to
and
them.
pay attention to them.
And hug them.
Yeah.
As well. Like, I've been in times where I've just been like, I've accepted that I'm angry.
Yeah.
But there's, as you say, there's an unmet need there. So if I hug my anger, then I'm sort of not ignoring it and I'm paying attention to it. And it's like walking through the fire and it's sort of touching the center point.
Yeah.
It's super hot, but it's my fire. So I'm not going to burn myself as opposed to somebody else.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like the way, again, I talk about this sometimes with clients too, right, is particularly with like anger and anxiety and sadness, right, or anxious thoughts, worry, because they're kind of the 3 ones that are, the 3 broad categories that are not, really great, really, really comfortable to be with. And it's like, if you think about anger, it's kind of like your body's way of saying stop, right, enough. Like it's a pushback.
Yeah.
It's a boundary, right? And I kind of picture it like a toddler just saying, no, stop. And so now when I experience anger and I realize I'm experiencing anger, what is it I need to stop? What is it that's too much? What is going on here?
It's your protective mechanism.
Yeah. And the same thing with worry or anxiety or fear, right? That's the part of your brain, right? It's literally there. It's from your amygdala, designed to keep you safe. And there's this great series of books called Hey Warrior. I think I might have talked about them already, but, that explain it in a really beautiful way. But like our brain is there to keep us safe. Our brain is there to keep us alive. And sometimes, again, we've talked about it being old technology, right? It gets a bit confused, particularly in the modern environment, right? So sometimes things that aren't actually dangerous can feel scary. But again, acknowledging that part of our brain, it's not trying to hurt us. It's not trying to punish us. It's not trying to keep us awake at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's trying to keep us safe. So for creating room with that. And then the same thing with the sadness, and when we feel low and when we feel exhausted and when we feel tired, it's that part of us that just sometimes needs to be held or needs to be acknowledged, and just it's actually, I need to slow for a bit. Like I need to calm. I need to cocoon. I need everything to feel in balance. I need everything to feeling okay. And that's just my brain's way of telling me that.
Yeah. And I love, I've done this a few times and I found it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
It's hugging yourself.
Oh, yeah. Therapeutic self-hugging.
If there's no one else around you and you like
hugging.
And you like hugging.
You need and like hugging.
Very important. But sometimes even just feeling that pressure of, wrapping your arms around yourself and telling you that you're there for you in that moment.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also like pretty powerful to do as well.
Yeah. And it can again have that soothing reflex. So I talk about this quite often as well with clients and in all contexts, right? Any chance I get. But this idea that, like, if your baby is crying, right, you swaddle them, you soothe them, you pick them up, you hold them, you shush them, you rock them, you feed them, you make sure they're clean and changed. All these things, you tend to their sensory needs and you comfort and you soothe them. That's what you do with a baby. That's done to us all to a certain age. And at some point that stops. But we're never really taught how to soothe or comfort ourselves.
No.
And there's actually nothing wrong with taking some time and taking some moments to set up an environment in your house, to set up spaces for yourself or rituals for yourself where you're taking that time to comfort and soothe. And like we're sitting in one of those examples in my house at the moment, right? So if you're listening and you can't see, there's literally the inspiration from this is Isabella's room in Encanto. And it's like there's artificial flowers and fairy lights hanging from the roof and the walls are pink and there's fluffy rugs and it's quiet and it's cool.
Some fluffy bean bags, lots of cushions.
All the things. There's nice little books to read, soft lighting, all of that kind of stuff. And it's a little sensory space. It used to be the walk-in wardrobe in the master bedroom, right? But having those things, even if it's a chair with a favourite blanket that you can sit with a cup of tea where you can stack comfort. So it's not an accident that you find your way into an environment that's soothing and that's safe for you, because we all need to be soothed. We all need to feel safe.
I would have killed for as a kid.
I know, right? Me too.
Yeah, this is the magical space where literally dreams could be made.
Yeah, and again, this is also down to the ADHD brilliant part of my brain, and this is the part I love about her too. Like literally, one morning at 9 o'clock, it was a white cupboard with some rubbish in it, and then by like 1:30 in the afternoon, 2 coats of paint on the wall, all of this architecture sort of like strung up with these flowers and everything else, like a complete, transformation.
Just a 180.
Yeah, we didn't even have the paint at 9 o'clock in the morning. But it's just like the hyperfixation to get it done. But right, creating that space for you, whatever that looks like, and making sure you're taking time to acknowledge and soothe and meet your sensory needs, to take that time to hug yourself, and even things like vagal nerve stimulation. And there's some great stuff, humming, gargling, singing. Even drinking, soothes the vagus nerve, and you can build drinking water. Yes. It can soothe and create and build vagal tone, massages, rubbing the back of your neck, right? There's a lot of that sort of stuff that you can do. And there's some great people, experts in it, roundabout, just Google, YouTube, vagus nerve stimulation, and helping to build that tone so that, that you're less likely to slip into fight or flight, and you're less likely to slip into these things because you've got a bigger window of tolerance. Your traffic controller that's trained 70 years ago is kind of getting a skills upgrade, and it might be they were trained 50 years ago, they now know what a computer is, or they can deal with more than one plane a day. But we can improve those things in our nervous systems and in our physiology to make life easier and kinder for our brains.
Yeah. And even from a sexology view too, I mean, when I was going through and doing my master's as well, I did my master's on lubricant.
Yeah.
So, personal products. And there was a lot of neurodivergent people that had feedback. And I asked the question, what don't you like about it? What do you like about it? I don't like the tacky. I don't like sticky. I don't like the smell. I don't like the taste. I don't, and they had this laundry list of things. And so it was really fortunate that I was doing my placement with a company that ticked all those boxes for sensory needs. And I often think about, in the bedroom as well, sensory issues. Is the lighting too bright? Is the music, is there music? Is there not music? And particularly for ADHD as well, that ability for us to have intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
And so, if you've got kind of the right inputs and the right sensory needs, they're still going to happen. They're still going to pop up. But understanding, what your likes are, what your dislikes are, and again, being with a supportive partner, there's so many different little changes that you can make that can heighten your sensory inputs as opposed to, taking them away and making it a chore or something that, you feel obliged to or something like that. And
or zoning out.
Or zoning out, yeah. And as a reminder to everybody, you never have to do anything just because you feel obliged to, consent is sexy. So it's really about understanding ourselves, understanding our needs. Is it our external sensory needs? Is it our internal processing needs? To be able to create a full picture. And again, sometimes if you haven't really sort of taken that journey, it can feel a bit momentous to start with. But it really,
one thing.
It's about putting
around with one thing,
putting the foot, taking the next right step and the next right step, putting the foot in front of the next one until you've built up this kind of laundry list of things that you do like and that you don't like, things that make you feel safe, things that don't make you feel safe. And, all of that contributes to your overall feeling of well-being so that you're not getting to this heightened highs or the low lows.
Yeah. And I love that, and experimenting, right? And so simple things like playing with a light, right? And, going, I wonder what this light feels like to me, and turning on, and then just taking that moment to notice, is it better? Is it worse?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm better with warm light rather than cool light. I'm better with a certain wattage, or all of those kind of things. But
I like the feel of these sheets rubbing against my skin.
Yep.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
Clothing, certain textures. And again, because a lot of it we consume, or we, whatever the context, the environment, whether it's the bedroom, the office, the playground, wherever we happen to be, a lot of our sensory environment's kind of given to us every day, and a lot of our needs are kind of just assumed. And so taking that moment to go, well, actually, hang on, is this good for me?
Yeah.
Is this healthy? Is this right for me? And taking that moment to notice, and even if you can notice just the smallest change in your body, it can make a big difference. And it's wild to me, when I think about this and we talk about it, joking about emotions and sensory stuff being completely different things, or mind and body. But realistically, your brain is an organ in your body, right? When we experience a feeling, it is a combination of physical sensations and chemical responses coupled with thoughts, right? That's a feeling, right? It's not anything more exciting or sexy than that. So there's no great mystery to it, right? It is a series of physiological responses, right? It is your brain box, your brain kit, right? That's doing its thing. So, when we talk about mind and body, and that's what I love so much about that story about your occupation, not your occupational therapist, your osteopath, and doing that massage, right, is our mind and body aren't two different things. They are the one piece of equipment, and we kind of separated them for analytical purposes sometime in the past sort of 150 years, and they've been increasingly separated. But now there's this great moment of actually bringing them back together, and they're not two different things. They're two sides of the same coin. And you need to make sure your physical needs are being met and your emotional needs are being met to be, in a good, balanced, healthy space.
Yeah. It's funny because we are essentially walking meat sacks, mostly made up of water with electrical impulses.
Yeah.
And when you consider the variations of...
And glitter.
Yes. Yes, and occasionally wearing unicorn crowns.
Yeah.
When you consider that the way that we've been able to evolve to have the level of thought that we have, to have the level of introspection that we have, we're basically one of the few species to have any kind of introspection of our own behaviour. And I think
that's the last bit that's been sort of chunked onto our brain.
Yeah.
Like a dodgy Renault. It doesn't frankly, work all that well.
I'm not sure about the builder's qualifications here.
And then they ran out of budget to to keep evolving it. So, yeah.
And, I think there's sort of bizarre assumption, besides the I think, therefore I am aspect, there's this sort of bizarre assumption that we're born with a lot of this stuff sort of integrally known. Like, no.
All learned.
That we're not born with prejudice, and we're not born with hatred. All of those things are learned over time. I think about, the strength, what actually strength means to me, strength of emotion, strength of body, everything. And I was having this conversation a little while ago, and we were talking about the fact that there was a misconception that going to the gym, building up your body strength, might mean that you might end up hurting somebody.
Because you're strong.
And so
okay.
I think there was this, and I was trying to step them through it and say, well, when you go to the gym, you build up your strength so that you know how strong you are. But it's often how you use that strength. You could go out there and, punch up a bunch of people. That'll land you in jail. And
we're not recommending that.
No,
folks.
Please don't do that. But if you're playing sports, for example, and you have built up your physical strength, you know how hard you can kick a ball. You know how you know the sort of boundaries of how how fast you might be able to hit something, or how hard you can throw something, and it means that you're more coordinated. So it actually means you're less likely to hurt somebody. Yeah. So you've got the core strength that you need in order to do the job and do whatever job well. And it's the same thing with emotions.
Yeah,
you have to be aware of them. You have to build them up. And, there's a fantastic book out there called, Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And there's so many stories in there from people who grew up in households where emotions were ignored, they were dismissed, and particularly as well.
Locked them in the basement, don't talk about it.
Exactly. The emotions, not the kids. Or
both.
And so understanding that there are situations that you will be in where the other person wasn't emotionally mature, their emotions, they may have been feeling them strongly, but they didn't have strength of emotion, and that's how they hurt people.
Yeah,
because they let their emotions get the best of them, whether it's through rage or anger or making them feel really small in that moment. And so the more you can strengthen your emotions. And without, again, positive or negative, right? Those are all labels still. Oh, these are my negative emotions.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're not.
I say this all the time. Emotions are value neutral.
Yeah.
They inherently hold no value.
They're not good.
They only get the value that we assign to them.
Just like food.
Yeah. And it's that place of actually recognizing to go, yes, some are going to be more pleasant and they're going to feel better. Some are going to be less pleasant. Sure, that's okay. That's fine. But they're all there to serve a purpose and to try and help us in one way or another.
Yeah.
It's just the delivery is sometimes a bit rough.
Absolutely. And the more that we evolve our brains, the more we read, the more we explore. And I've said this before, which is when you feel lost, the best thing that you can do is be curious.
Yeah.
And so even with your own emotions, if you feel lost, if you don't know what you're feeling, the best thing that you can be is to be curious.
Absolutely.
And that's in itself actually an emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a place to start.
It's a place to start.
Because you're open to what comes next as opposed to being closed off.
Yeah. And when we're learning, that's so important too, because we don't have the answer. And a lot of us, this isn't stuff that we have been taught, or we might have been taught with information that's now we know is out of date. Right? Because again, we're learning and growing as a species, we're learning and growing as a society, which is a beautiful, wonderful thing. And 10 years' time, we'll probably look back at this and go, we said what? But for now, for the information that we've got, we're in this place. And so being curious and just going, I wonder what's going on there for me. And I wonder what's happening. And particularly as well when you're dealing with difficulties with interoceptive capability, right? And it's difficult to interpret what's happening in your own body, right? Like even things like hearing my stomach rumble and going, what's that? What's going on there? I've heard my stomach rumble. Am I hungry? Is it a hungry rumble? No. Is it a worried rumble? Yes. Even that ability to work out and start towards the end and work your way back, even like things like thirsty, right? Like I've got a headache. When's the last time I drank water, right? That's a fairly, I go to the bathroom and my wee is a very dark colour. I need, oh, when's the last time I drank water? Could I be thirsty? My mouth is dry. My throat is dry, gradually working it back. And then you can build that skill and start getting that awareness of what's happening in your body more, but just not assuming that any of the signals that you're getting are the correct signals, are timely signals or anything else like that, but just going, I wonder what's happening there. So like a big one for me is sometimes if I feel flushed and I notice that happening, or even just like observing my pulse. And like my pulse is increasing and I'm not doing physical activity. I wonder what's going on there. Like I wonder what's happening there. Am I angry? And just pausing and being curious with it.
Yeah. I find that I have the little voice in my head. And so it's the one that annoyingly turns out to be right most of the time.
Damn her.
But it's the voice that's like, maybe you should do this instead of this. And I often find that, there's I want to say the more brash sort of, charge where angels fear to tread part of me that runs right over the top and steamrolls. And it's just like, no, we don't need to
possibly
do that.
Be that.
No.
Yeah.
And then later on realizing, I should have listened to that little voice.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the more you listen to that little voice, and call it your intuition, call it your gut, call it whatever you like, spidey sense, that is it's like a muscle, right? Like the more you strengthen that muscle, the stronger it becomes.
Yeah.
It's like discipline, except that doesn't work for ADHD people. But the more you listen to yourself, the more you listen to your intuition, your gut, the stronger it actually gets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's even funny, like sometimes for me it's an external voice, in the form of my partner or in the form of somebody else. But like, in fact, for years, and I wouldn't understand this, and they'd be like, are you mad at me? Right? And, that good old one, are you mad at me? And I'll go, no, right, as the default. And in that moment, genuinely, I would believe that no, I wasn't mad at you, right? Later I might be slamming a microwave and shouting. And, and then it's like, oh, I was mad. It's like, I asked you if you're mad and you said no. And now, and
you didn't realize.
And now you're shouting. But like literally in that moment, I didn't know. So now if somebody says to me, are you mad? I pause and I stop and I breathe and I go, am I? Because chances are I'm mad somewhere between the scale of like a 2 out of 10 to maybe a 6 out of 10, where it might starting to be obvious for other people, or I might be exhibiting some symptoms or some signs of anger, but I don't actually know that that's what's going on. So that pause in that moment to go, anger. No, I'm not anger. It's not anger. It's frustration. It's disappointment, whatever that might be, but taking that moment to go, am I, like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And then those days I pick it up and go, yes, actually I am angry, or I'm disappointed, I'm frustrated because this has happened.
Yeah.
And then you let it out there and it's like, oh, I haven't had that big explosion or that big eruption. Like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I find very much so that resentment is often the place that a lot of those kinds of feelings come from.
Yeah.
And I will reference, my vulnerability queen here, which is, Brené Brown, talking about resentment. And the gotcha moment for me was that I realized I was holding a lot of resentment. And the part where she was talking about resentment as being potentially a part of anger, like linked to anger.
Mm-hmm.
And the person she was speaking to said, no, resentment is actually born out of envy.
Mm.
And it really hit home for me in that moment, because I realized that when I was holding resentment over somebody's actions, it was this envy that came from, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could do that?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to do that?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to care about that? And it could be, just about any number of things, some of which I could control, some of which I could influence, and some of which I couldn't control. But knowing kind of where it's born out of as well, like saying, oh, I'm resentful. Okay, great. But knowing how it's attached is also critical as well, because holding myself in that place, it doesn't change anything. I can name it, but I still feel it.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that too, you name it and I can feel it, but then understanding where it's coming from too. So it's like, oh, I wish I could do that too. And when you can verbalize it and go, well, hang on, why can't I do that too? Is this something I could actually do? But again, we're just so stuck on the treadmill. We're so stuck on the rules and what we can do. Yep. We often mentally opt ourselves out of a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Or cut off opportunities, or we just assume it's not going to happen. and we forget to ask for it, and then we get resentful about it later.
Yeah. That was good. That was a lot.
That was a lot, a really, really big one. But I think it's an important one too, right? Because we so often get called sensitive, you know, and whether that's because you've got sensory needs that somebody else can't understand.
Yeah.
But then when you explain that to them in a way that they can understand, like literally, you know, it feels like my skin is on fire, or I have a headache, you know, it's sort of something a little bit more tangible, and being able to explain the impact on your nervous system, or explaining the thoughts and the emotions and feelings that you're having. Like, there's so much judgment that comes from that, and respecting that your world's your world, my world's my world, and our worldviews can be completely different. We can be in the same situation experiencing it completely differently, and neither's right or wrong. So, you know, not just looking and going, oh, she's so sensitive.
Oh, and also just keeping in mind too as well that the downplaying of emotions often comes from this guilt that, oh, there are so many other people who have it worse off than I do. I shouldn't feel guilty. I shouldn't, you know, navel gaze.
I shouldn't feel angry. I shouldn't feel this. I shouldn't feel frustrated.
The shoulds are unhelpful.
Because it's that should word.
That should word. And so when you actually break it down again and validate your own feelings, yes, there are probably millions of other people experiencing worse things than you in that moment. But also at the same time, you can't control it.
Yeah.
You can try to influence it. But you have to hold space for yourself in order to be able to fill up your own cup, so that if you do want to go running out and making the world a better place, if you do want to, you know, do something with all of the caring that you are currently holding on to that is bursting from every single fiber and pore of your being, then you have the time, the energy, and the brain space to be able to do it.
Be able to do that, yeah. So have we got a couple of tools here to maybe share with people, some spice jars?
Let's open up the spice jar.
Let's open up the spice jar. First thing out, it's a disclaimer that this is...
I love this disclaimer.
That this is advice. This is not advice. This is general information only for education and information. It is not a replacement for therapy.
This is stuff that has worked for us.
Yep.
It may work for you. Use at your own risk.
Use it if you feel like it. Don't. That's okay. And if you are finding that you're struggling with emotions at the moment and things are feeling really big and scary for you, it's okay to reach out and get some help and get some support. Because we need help and support from time to time. You know, if your toilet's clogged, you go to a plumber. You know, if your light's not working, you speak to an electrician. If your knee hurts, you might go to a doctor or a physio, right? So it's okay if your brain box is not working and things are feeling hard for you at the moment. Yeah, definitely get some help.
Yeah, there's a range of amazing systems and support available as well. There's a lot of 1-800 numbers. There's Beyond Blue. There's Lifeline. So
if you're in Australia.
So if you are feeling that things are overwhelming, there are people to talk to.
Absolutely. And wherever you are in the world, there is always someone qualified, willing to talk. So yeah, my exercise today is something that I've found to be pretty helpful. And it's the body scanning and noticing. And we've got this time now as well where we'll do it as a family too, and actually have the time to do sort of body check-ins and see how we're traveling, and actually seeing if our sensory needs are being met, our body needs are being met, right? So keeping that nervous system in check and in balance. And it's just taking a moment to like take a quick breath in and out. Like, it doesn't need to take very long, and then just going from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. What are you noticing? And if that feels too overwhelming in the moment, just ask yourself, you know, do I need to eat? Do I need to drink? You know, are the lights too bright? Like, literally just going through the 8 senses that we have and checking in on those and going, how am I traveling? Are they okay? Because chances are, if you do have lower interoception and you do have higher sensory needs, chances are there's something out of whack, but you may not know about it. And so that can lead us to being frustrated or simmering or feeling short or feeling like everything feels a little bit harder, or being a little bit more emotional, a little bit more reactive. And chances are it's one of your sensory needs is not being met. So just taking that moment to scan, seeing that discomfort too, it's also helpful to score it, right? Again, I love data, I love numbers, I love facts so much, and I'll say that all the time. But like, say, scanning and going, okay, I have got a really dry throat, which I actually do right now. Same. Okay, let's take a moment to do it real time. I have a dry throat right now. At the moment, it's about an 8 out of 10. So 10's like super uncomfortable, can't live with it. 8 is like, it's grating on me. So it's about an 8 out of 10. So what I'm going to do, take a drink. I'm sure that made really interesting listening as I took a drink right then. But then pausing and taking a moment to notice and going, okay, what's the score now? So for me, it's gone from about an 8 to about a 6. And so going, okay, well, the next thing I'll do is I'll take another sip and see. So again, seeing that movement and seeing that change and seeing that
where the needle points afterwards.
Exactly. And then with a view of getting that down to a level that's comfortable for you. So yeah, that's a really powerful tool. And I cannot overemphasize the understanding of sensory needs and where you're at and the awareness of it. Me and my husband did our sensory profiles, and we did it with our daughter. And it was game-changing. We discovered that 90% of our marital discourse came from having completely opposite sensory profiles. Like, how we ended up together is absolutely a mystery. I could probably do an entire another episode.
Well, you both hate bananas, so
we both hate bananas. We've got that in common. But like, I live in, light mode. He's in dark mode. I whisper like I'm talking to mice every day. He cannot whisper. Like, he lives everything. He sneezes and it's like a shotgun going off in my house, but like everything. And it's not right or wrong, but like so many times I'm like, why can't you just sneeze quieter, right? And it's actually, he's not doing it to hurt me. And it's just that my ears pick up a lot more sound than other people's do, right? But having that awareness and coming up with environments that are supportive to our needs is really powerful. And a lot of the clients I work with, and they might do that exercise with a partner, and sort of working that through and again, seeing what's going on in their house and creating environments or creating rules or rituals to help make your sensory needs met more often is a really low effort way of creating safety within ourselves. So little things like listening to the volume lower, because me and my daughter both have really acute hearing, so we don't listen to it over about an 8. The maximum's 100, folks.
It's got to be an even number.
Yeah.
It's got to be an even number.
I'm over that now. I'm mostly over that. But like, yeah, it's like we won't listen to it really beyond an 8 or a 10 out of 100. But we pop subtitles on. Or if he's wanting to listen to something loud and it's for him, we'll put our headphones on. So, creating these scenarios where it is safe to be you and it is okay to have your sensory needs met means that we're not having family movie night as a traumatic experience that we then have big feelings afterwards. So
and it's not all one or nothing.
Exactly. And how can you create that space? Yeah. So that's that one, that ability to scan and score, see what's happening. I am just going to have another drink of water and see if I can get this down to a 3 while you go through your tool.
So I think that ties in really nicely with mine, which is about I often have a situation where I know something's wrong. I have a feeling that something's wrong, but I can't necessarily instantly articulate what it is. So I will think about the areas of my life. So is it home life? Is it friendship? Is it family? Is it work? Is it love life? And so I sort of divide up my life into these sort of sections. And then I imagine that I'm taking, cooked but like cooled spaghetti, and I'm literally throwing it at the wall to see what sticks, to see if it's cooked. And so, in my mind, I'll close my eyes and I'll visualize and I'll imagine that I'm throwing, spaghetti at the wall, and it might be a handful of spaghetti, and it might be, I'm thinking about work. No, the spaghetti is not sticking. Okay, I'm thinking about family. No, the spaghetti's not sticking. Okay, I'm thinking about friendships. Yeah, something stuck there. Great. So it's this kind of sensation I can feel about what's right, what feels correct, in order to be able to investigate it further.
Yeah.
And then when you start to go down through the layers and be like, okay, well, what's the issue? Well, this person forgot my birthday.
Right.
Or this person didn't reach out to me when they said that they would, or things like that. So it's this opportunity to realize that there are things that happen that we, I think, on the surface brush off. It doesn't matter, it doesn't affect us, or we try to downplay, and we make excuses for certain things. And it ignores the way that we actually feel about the situation. And then, we sort of shelve that for later, so that if we don't talk about it with that person, they do something else to piss us off in the future. It's like, well, you forgot my birthday. And so then they go, well, I'm so sorry. And, if you talked to me about it, I would have been able to apologize. And so when we carry those things around in our gut, and they sort of tend to accumulate as well, and it might not be just one thing, it might be a series of things that are off.
Yeah.
And it's about sort of working out, okay, well, what can I actually do to bring this about?
Yeah.
And when I did have a chat to the friend who forgot my birthday, because she always normally remembers, and so that's why I was kind of a bit hurt. And she was...
So it wasn't me.
It was not you.
Because I forget all the time.
You usually send me a text. It's fine. I understand that that's you, and I love that. Or you send me a video message.
Yeah, or a video.
And I love that. But it was when I did actually gently reminded her she was coming down to visit, and I said, hey, it was my birthday last week, and she's like, oh my God, I am so sorry. And so we were able to have a conversation about it. She's also on the spectrum.
Yeah.
So for her, it was time blindness, and she just forgot the day. And all of those things are okay, right? But I just didn't want to carry it anymore. And so there's this whole kind of
but
aspect.
Also for you and your RSD too, right? But like for you to know it's not you haven't done anything to upset her, you haven't done anything to piss her off or anything along those lines. She'd literally just forgotten. It's not a you thing, it's a her thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I'm sort of carrying a bunch of weight as well, because when I turned 30, 30, it's a milestone. And the only people that really remembered were my closest friends, my mum, my dad, my godmother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no one else in my family remembered or reached out. And not even...
She got a big extended family, yeah.
Yeah, and not even like sort of a belated thing. So obviously, clearly I'm still holding some stuff about that, and I'll have some, it's 10 years too late, right? But like those are the little things that you can end up carrying with you, and that can weigh you down and make you feel heavy. So if you can visualize the spaghetti hitting the wall and what's sticking so you can deal with it in the moment as opposed to carrying it around, then again, that accumulation of weight, it's going to get lighter and lighter and lighter over time.
And that's really interesting too. And if you have trouble, I guess, visualizing, and visualization doesn't happen in your brain, and that's a few of us as well, is just even like saying those things or writing those things down, however you learn, and then reflecting on it and noticing that feeling or that change in your body. So even if you don't know what feeling is, like you don't know what your body's telling you, you're going, oh, I'm getting that tightness, I'm getting a pang here, or I'm feeling heavier, to actually go, okay, there's something there, that's something I should go in and look at the next layer down. I love that. And look, sometimes there's nothing more than I would love to do is to scream, but every time I've tried to have the opportunity to actually scream when I'm home by myself, nothing comes out. So I'm working on that. It's something to work through, for sure.
Also, I don't want the neighbours to call the cops.
I love that, but I think that's really interesting with the two tools, right, that we've picked out this week too, because mine's like sort of more feeling the feeling in your body and then trying to work out where it's like, what's that need that needs to be met, and yours is more I'm feeling an unpleasant emotion and then trying to work out where that's coming from by listening to your body and listening to the responses in your body.
And also knowing if you've met your physical needs and you're still feeling that way, there's
something else going
much
on.
more exploration to be done.
Yeah, and again with a body scan too, right? Like if you're doing that and you're like noticing your skin's really flushed, and it's not that you're too hot, it's not that you're overheated, it's not that you haven't drunk water, but like my skin's feeling flushed. Is it that I'm embarrassed? Is it that I'm angry? Is it that I'm scared? Like, again, you can use that same spaghetti sticking thing to go, what's happening here, and being curious, and you're going, oh yeah, it's embarrassment. Okay. And then it allows you something to be able to do something with it.
Absolutely. And holding the spaghetti in your hand is one thing, right? Even if you know it's cooked, but knowing what to do with it afterwards, being able to take action, even if action means doing something out of your comfort zone. Yeah. Because nothing was really born out of just being in your comfort zone. There's no progress.
We don't grow.
We don't grow.
Yeah. There's stepping safely outside your comfort zone. I love that.
It's like that sunscreen song that they had in the 90s. It was roughly around the time the Romeo and Juliet movie, the Baz Luhrmann one, came out. Yeah. And, it's this deep booming voiceover, this sort of, beautiful, gospel music in the background. And at one point he says, do one thing every day that scares you. And I love that because it means that if the more you push your comfort zone, the more you push your bubble, the more you push your boundaries, like not to anything unsafe, but it means that there's always that room for growth.
Always. I love that. And so that's probably wrapping up sensitive. I'm noticing my tummy is rumbling and it's moving around and like something's happening. So I've drunk my water, and so now I'm thinking I maybe need to eat. So we might hit pause for this week and tend to the grumbly tumbly, And thank you so much for listening to our episode on all things sensitive and finding a narrative.
Yeah, we hope that you have felt your feelings.
Yes.
Hopefully also registered some of the stuff that's come up for you this week as well. And rather than pushing them away, embrace them,
naming them.
Name them, journal about them, imagine hugging them. And just it's all part of that beautiful learning and that beautiful healing journey.
Yeah, fantastic. So until next time, when we unpack another label, stay spicy.
Stay spicy.
You're listening to the NeuroSpice Life podcast
with Hanna and Freya, besties, brains, and more.
If you've enjoyed listening, follow us on YouTube or your favourite podcast app and share it with someone else who knows the sting of a sticky label.
We'll see you next time. Until then, stay spicy, stay wonderful.